So we are talking about how to stop giving up your parent input rights, because there are many times besides the IEP meeting when we want to make sure that you're giving your input into any kinds of discussions and decisions that are being made. So let's take a quick look over here. We have done part 1, and if you missed part 1, no worries. We will have the link to that in the comments. But basically in part 1, we talked about the assessment planning meeting, how that happens before you are asked to give consent for an evaluation. And you want to be part of that team discussion of, do we have enough information? Do we need more current assessments? What assessments should we use? You are a member of that evaluation team that can be having that discussion. So that was in part 1. Part 2, we are right here, right now, and we're going to be talking about the evaluation/eligibility meeting. Often they happen at the same time. So after the assessment, you do have a couple things that we want to make sure has happened. One, we want to make sure that you've submitted your parent report and that you ask that it be copied and pasted into the evaluation report, just like the school psychologist or the speech therapist or the special ed teacher have reports that are fully written in that evaluation report. And as an equal member, we want your parent report to be embedded into that actual evaluation report. The other thing that you can be doing is to send an email and request that you get a copy of the draft eligibility report, evaluation report, at least 3 to 5 days before you have that evaluation/eligibility meeting. So you have time to read it over, digest it, see if you have any questions. Just like you want to receive a draft IEP ahead of time, you also want to see the draft evaluation report ahead of time. So that's really important for you to know that. Also, after that assessment planning meeting, the staff's going to be conducting the assessment, and you are the lucky one because you get to start preparing for the evaluation eligibility meeting. And so when you are gathering information and you're looking at exactly what's going to happen during that evaluation and eligibility meeting, you want to be able to prove your case. And they're going to be basically 3 questions that are asked. And so this is a time while the team is doing their updated assessments that you can start pulling things together so you'll be prepared. When you're at the eligibility part of the meeting, you have to be able to say, yes, your child does have a disability. You have to be able to show why your child's disability is impacting their ability to access and make progress in the general ed curriculum. And then the team also needs to be able to say that your child does need specially designed instruction. And so, like I said, this is an excellent time while the staff are updating their assessments that you can be getting documentation so you will have a good case to show that, yes, your child has a disability, it does impact them, and yes, they need specially designed instruction. So let's go back over here. Those are the actions you can take. And at that evaluation and eligibility meeting, it happens to pretty much have the same members of an IEP team. So it's probably no coincidence there. But remember, the parent, you, And your child, if they want, are members of the evaluation team, as is the general ed teacher, a special education teacher, someone who can interpret assessment results, and an administrator or their designee. And the little asterisk is, please always make sure that you double check with your own state regulations. Sometimes there are states that mandate other people to be at evaluation eligibility meetings. So just kind of double check that with your own state. Now, during that meeting, they're going to be talking about, each person is probably going to do a verbal summary of their evaluation report. And that's when you can also refer to your parent report and double check that it's in the evaluation report and give a verbal summary of the information that you have about your child, what kinds of strengths and needs they have, what skills you see them using at home, anything like that will help the team understand your child better. That is what you want to be sharing at the evaluation portion of this meeting. Now, if there is consent that the evaluation is complete, then you can continue on with the eligibility part of the meeting. If there's disagreement, if you don't think the assessment was complete, you can always request an independent education evaluation. And I'll put a link in the comments for a video that I've done about independent education evaluations. But just know that you, again, have input. You don't have to rubber stamp anyone's decision. You can voice your opinion. And if there's disagreement, there's always another step that you can take as a parent. So, during that eligibility meeting, like I said, there's usually 3 prongs, 3 questions that the whole team is going to be looking at. This is a diagram taken from the Idaho IEP guidance manual. I'm sure at your state Department of Special Education, they also have some guidance or a special education manual. So it's always good to look at what your own state says. But basically, the team is going to have to look at, do we have enough information to say that this student meets the criteria for an eligibility category? And there's, depending on your state, 13, 14 different disability categories, such as intellectual disability, specific learning disability. If your child meets the criteria for one of those categories, then the first question is, yes, my child does have a disability. And then you move on to the second question, which is, okay, but does your child's disability impact their education? Does it make it difficult for them to access the general ed curriculum and make progress in that general ed curriculum? If the answer is yes for that, then you move on to the third and final question. So your child has a disability, it impacts their education. Now, can we say yes, that they need specially designed instruction? And if the team answers yes to that question, then your child is declared eligible for special education services. And then the next step would be writing an IEP. And that most likely would happen at a follow-up meeting, because to talk about an evaluation report, to also go back through eligibility determination, which teams have to do every 3 years, that in itself will probably be a full meeting. And you could request that they reschedule and then do the actual writing of the IEP in a follow-up meeting. So those are the basics as far as what happens at evaluation and eligibility meetings. Again, you want to share the information that you've gathered and be able to show why your child qualifies for special education. Let's see here. And I think I've got my clicks here. So let me see. If there's a consensus, then, like I said, the IEP would be written. If there's not a consensus, then the team would either have to, continue the conversation. If the school members of the team do not feel like your child needs specially designed instruction, they have to be able to give you other options. And sometimes that would be a 504 plan. So that would be one thing that your child may be eligible for if they do not qualify for special education services. But I think the most important thing is to remember all the steps along this process. You as a parent and your child as the student that we're talking about have rights for your input. And we want to make sure that that is happening in your situation. So we've done the evaluation and eligibility meeting today. We are going to combine situation 3 and 4. And so stay tuned for our next video, and the link will be in the comments.